Welcome to Live Without Limits, transform your thinking to redesign your life. I'm your host, Davida Shensky, and today we're talking about something that can completely change the way you appreciate your goals and your life, self-determination. You see, success doesn't start with opportunity, it starts with ownership. When you're driven from within, when you're fueled by your own beliefs, passions, and purpose, you stop waiting for permission and start creating the path. So today, what I'm going to do is walk you through what self-determined really is, why it's the secret ingredient in any lasting success story, and how you can strengthen yours every single day. So let's dive in. Self-determination is your ability to choose, to act, and to live according to your own values, not based on pressure or expectations from the outside world. Psychologists call self-determination theory, and it centers on three things: autonomy, which is the freedom to make your own choices; competence, which is feeling capable of mastering tasks; and relatedness, having meaningful connections that support your growth. It's the difference between chasing goals for approval and setting goals because they align with who you are. When you're self-determined, you aren't easily thrown off by rejection or setbacks. You're grounded in your own internal compass, and that's power. Now, let's talk about reclaiming control from a controlling parent, because so many times parents just love that control of that young child, that even as they grow up, they continue to control them and they don't want to let go of anything, especially if they're using them for the purse strings. So, we're going to talk about when you're self-determined, you aren't easily thrown off by rejection or setbacks. You're grounded in your own internal compass. A 25-year-old named Maya still lives under the influence of her parents. They insist that she pursue a safe career in accounting, even though her true passion lies in becoming a graphic designer. Every time she mentions art school or freelance work, her parents shame her with, "That's not a real job, or you'll fail and come crawling back." And I can tell you that many years ago, and I've been in the job market over 40 years, and you got to remember back in the 80s, women were basically keyholed into certain jobs. They didn't have the opportunities they had today. And my sister really loved numbers. She liked controlling everything and wanted to do accounting, where she would have worked for a company and traveled around to different cities, keeping the books for companies and then sitting down and telling them what she did. Well, the sad part is she got pushed into teaching because that's what my mother wanted her to do. Plus, at the same time, there wasn't that many opportunities for women. But the sad part is she was not a good teacher. She never stayed in the same school more than a year or two at the most. never got along with her principals, never got along with her co-teachers. Then after 19 years, she was forced to take 3 months off and then went back to finish up the last 11 years so she could get her teacher's pension, and continued with the never staying in the same school more than a year or two. And the last year that she taught, she literally had to change school systems because there were no more schools for her to go to within the area that she lived in, or that she got hired in. Because she was hired for the Atlanta City school system and then ended up working in DeKalb County her last year. So as you can see, that's a situation of someone who is unhappy in their situation and don't know how to get out. So how does Maya take control of her life? She defines her own vision. Instead of continuing to absorb their fears, Maya sits down and journals. What does success mean to me? What kind of life would make me feel fulfilled? If fear wasn't holding me back, what would I do? She discovered that she wants freedom, creativity, and purpose, not a job that places others or pleases others, but drains her. She sets boundaries. Maya calmly tells her parents, I appreciate your concern, but this is my life. I'm going to pursue graphic design because it aligns with who I am. I love your support, but I'm not asking for permission. They resist, they argue, but she stands firm. That's her first act of reclaiming personal power. I had a mother that constantly, because I have a disability and learning and the way I learned, that my needs were not being met in the classroom, so my grades never truly aligned with my true capabilities. And I had a mother that was constantly telling me how I was going to fail because she only wanted me doing what she wanted me to do. And she wanted to use Social Security to continue to get money in my name. And so she never really wanted me to succeed. And then when I finished school and couldn't find gainful employment and told her I wanted to start my own business, all she heard was that I wanted her money. Never asked her for a dime, but that's what she thought. And yet, my mother was a homemaker. She worked in the home. My father was a lawyer, and he set up certain investments to take care of our financial needs if anything happened to him. And yet my mother used that as the carrot on the stick, that she was not going to help you unless you did what she wanted you to do. So there were many times that I was homeless while I worked on my business simply because they refused to help me. And I've got a sister that likes to control everything and abuse her sisters and uses the control that she holds over the money to allow herself to do what she wants to do. And you can see that it's a pattern from one generation to the next, that we have to learn how to break that patterns and live the life that we were meant to live and not allow others to control us and decide how and what we choose to do. So she builds an exit plan. Instead of reacting impulsively, she creates a transition plan, saves money from her current job, builds a small freelance portfolio on the side, applies to part-time design programs or out or online courses. She's not waiting for their approval. She's preparing for her fortune. Now, had I had the opportunity to have gotten a good job, I would have worked there until I was financially secure and could go out and start a business on my own. But I was in a situation where, because I have a disability and because the laws were not there to protect me, I couldn't find gainful employment where I made a decent income to build financial security. Therefore, that's how I ended up being stuck in situations where I did not have the same opportunities as someone else to build that financial freedom. But just remember, we are now living in times where education is being monitored, and they're telling you what you can study, how you can study, what books you can read, and that is another form of control. She builds her own support system. Maya finds mentors and creatives online. She joins a Facebook group for aspiring designers. She talks to people who support her dreams, not tear them down. This reinforces her sense of self and makes her realize she doesn't need everyone to believe in her, just herself. And I'm going to say this, that at least I had a support system, not in my family, but through friends and acquaintances who supported my dream and allowed me to talk to them of the frustrations of what I was going through while I built my business. The key lesson here is taking control of your life doesn't mean cutting people off or fighting them. It means reclaiming your choices. It's moving from reacting to others' expectations to acting based on your own values and vision. Now, remember, this is something that I need to say, that back old school, parents were raised a certain way, and these were the skills and the things that they brought with them that they continued throughout their lifespan. Therefore, recognizing this, knowing that you have to find a way to break the bonds. And remember this, that we all kind of, as we grow up, a family works as a well-oiled machine because they expect each other to react in a certain way. And when one person changes, there's a break in that, because and they're going to try and pull you back in because they don't really want to change and they don't want to see you change. And sometimes you have to be the one that not only breaks away from the family, but totally cuts ties with your family because they are afraid to let go. Now, let's talk about how this actually impacts your success. Why self-determination matters. People excuse me. People with a high level of self-determination are more likely to stay motivated during long or difficult journeys. Set intrinsically rewarding goals, not just money or titles. Bounce back from failure because they see it as a feedback, not defeat, because they've claimed ownership of their life. Let me say this clearly. You cannot reach a goal that doesn't belong to you. If your goals are just shoulds posed down or passed down from society, family, or peers, your motivation will dry up quickly. Now, I'm going to go back and use this as an example. In transactional analysis, we talk about the adult, the parent, and the child. The parent says you should. The adult says I'm able to. And the child says I want. Therefore, you need to look at all the shoulds that you were told, how you integrated that into your thinking, and how to get rid of the shoulds and think in terms of I am able to. And once you do that, then it allows you to take more control over your life. So, if your goals are just shoulds passed down from society, family, or peers, your motivation will dry up quickly. But when your goals reflect your core values and authentic desires, suddenly effort feels meaningful, even joyful. Self-determination makes your goals stick. So, where does career and education come in when it comes to your shoulds? You should become a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. It's the only way to be successful. You should go to college right after high school, even if you're not sure what you want to do. You should stay in a stable job with benefits, even if you're miserable. You should only choose careers that pay well. These shoulds often come from fear of instability, not your personal passion or purpose. Relationship and your life path based on your shoulds. You should be married by 30. You should have kids. What else is life about? You should stay in the relationship. Divorce is failure. You should prioritize your family's needs over your own. These shoulds can lead people to follow timelines or traditions that don't reflect their true desires. Now, I want to go back and address that because I've known several people that were a generation ahead of me, at least by a decade, and they grew up with the mentality that you had to be married by 21 or you were an old maid, instead of, because the latter part of the baby boomer generation, those that were born in the 50s, that was the beginning of the awakening of the 60s, where women started looking for other opportunities. And I know several women that one got married because she was afraid no one else would ask her, and ended up in an abusive relationship. And someone else who never felt as though she belonged, and because he wanted her, she married him, even though people were telling her not to marry him because they knew what he was, and he abused her. So remember, when you're talking about shoulds, you got to recognize where they come from. Money and success based on your shoulds. You should always be saving for retirement. Don't waste money on travel or experiences. You should own a house. That's the definition of being an adult. You should never take financial risks. You should Aim to climb the corporate ladder, not start your own business. These shoulds can discourage entrepreneurship, creative paths, or non-traditional lifestyles. Identity and behavior based on the shoulds. You should be more ladylike, manly, polite, quiet, strong. You should always respect authority, even if they're wrong. You should never make waves, fit in. You should hide your emotions, vulnerability, and weakness. These shoulds shape personality and self expression, often leading to self censorship. So, how to recognize a should in your life? Ask yourself, did I choose this or did someone else choose it for me? Am I doing this to feel accepted or because it aligns with my values? Does this bring me joy or just relieve guilt or fear? Real life stories. Now, let's ground this into some real life stories. There's the big high school senior who was told college wasn't for her, but she stayed up late studying, took a second job to pay application fees, and got into her dream school. Why? Because she was driven by her vision, not anyone else's doubt. There's the entrepreneur who launched a business after everyone said, be realistic. They didn't have a blueprint. They had belief, and that was enough to start. And let me share something personal. I've faced physical challenges most people don't see, especially growing up in a world that wasn't built for people with disabilities. But I knew I had something to offer. I wasn't waiting for someone to open the door, and I decided to build my own. That's self determination. These stories have one thing in common. They didn't wait for external validation. They acted from internal conviction. And your internal conviction is where you have to determine where and what you're going to do for yourself. So, how to build your self determination? Let's get practical. How do you build self determination? There are 4 strategies you can use right now. Journal your why. Take time to write down why your goals matter to you. This creates emotional clarity. Set personal SMART goals. Be specific, measurable. Is it achievable? Is it relevant to you? Is it time bound? Create autonomy in your day. Make at least one meaningful decision daily that moves you toward your vision, even a small one. It builds your confidence, reflection on your growth. Look back at moments when you didn't give up. That's evidence that you're already more self-determined than you think. Remember, self-determination grows stronger when it's practiced intentionally. Finding your why is deeper reason for doing something is essential for long-term motivation, fulfillment, and self-directed success. When your actions are tied to a meaningful why, they become more personal and sustainable. Here's a step-by-step guide with examples to help you find your why. Now, before I get into this, I want to say this, that I grew up with a disability, and what I have is cerebral palsy, and specifically spastic hemiplegia, because it just affects my right side. And it's a neuromuscular disability. The damage is in the brain. Therefore, the brain, which controls movement, is affected. But it doesn't mean that I can't learn. But the way I learn is very different than everyone else. Many people learn auditory, where they can hear it. Others learn by writing it down. But for me, it's an actual taking what I'm learning and applying it and doing it. Therefore, that's how I learn. And teachers teach in a cookie cutter way because that's the way they're expected to teach. Plus, they have to reach the majority of the students. So unless you have special needs, you are usually one that can easily be left behind or misdiagnosed or whatever, because the school systems today, especially with what's happening now, are not going to do the testing to determine the needs of each student separately. So ask yourself, why do I want this? This is called the 5-way whys technique. Ask why 5 times to get past the surface level answers and uncover the root motivation. Now, one of the things that I've done is I had to learn how to advocate for myself because I had no one else to advocate for me. And so, yes, my passion lies in advocacy. And while I lived in Atlanta, and when the Olympics came to Atlanta, the Atlanta committee that bid for the Olympics refused to bid for the Paralympics. So it was the disability community that got together to bring the Paralympics to Atlanta. And then the head of the IOC went in and changed the bylaws. So after 1996, any host country and host city that was bidding for one was automatically bidding for both. That's why they have to prepare for the Paralympics just as well as prepare for the Olympics. So I want to start my own business. Why? Because I want to be my own boss. Why? Because I don't want someone else controlling my time. Why? Because I value freedom and flexibility. Why? Because I want to spend more time with my kids and travel. Why? Because I want to live life in my terms and never miss the moments that matter. So the real key is freedom, presence, and purpose. Reflect on past fulfillment. Think of the time that you felt truly alive, proud, and satisfied. Think of a time that you felt truly alive. What were, what was I doing? Who was I helping? What impact did I make? What values was I living out? This can reveal clues about what energizes and drives you at your core. Connect to your core values. Your why is almost always linked to your values. So ask, what matters most to me? Freedom, growth, love, service, integrity. Which values do I want to express through my goals? If you value growth, your why might be to challenge myself and become the best version of who I'm meant to be. If you value service, your why would be to uplift others and make a difference with my life. Use the prompt, I want action or goal so that I can desired impact or feeling. For example, I want to lose weight so I can feel confident and play with my kids without pain. I want to start a business so that I can create legacy and control my future. I want to spread Okay, let me say this again. I want to speak on stage so that I can inspire others who feel invisible. Write your why statement. Create a clear, powerful statement that reminds you of your true motivation. My why is to what you want to do because the deeper reason it matters to you. For example, my why is to empower others through coaching because I believe everyone deserves to live with confidence and clarity. Now, let's talk about the takeaways and the wrap up of what the key things we talked about. Self determination is your inner passion. It's what keeps you moving even when no one's cheering. Goals that come from within have more power than goals that you chase for approval. You don't need to wait for the perfect conditions. You need to decide that this matters to me. Here's a question for you. What's one goal that in your life that you want to pursue because it's deeply personal and meaningful, not because anyone else told you to? Think about it. Better yet, write it down tonight. Now, if this episode lit something inside you, do me a favor. Subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's chasing a dream. And don't forget, if you're ready to take, let's say this again. If you're ready to take your personal growth to the next level, check out the free challenge and journal prompts on my website. You'll find the link in the show notes. So until next time, I'm Davida Shensky reminding you success starts when you stop waiting and start deciding. So live without limits.